Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. I'm here to do part 2 of the Q&As, and I have about 16 questions to go through today, and I'd like to go through them a little faster. Just want to start by saying, thank you for those who actually follow this channel and watch the video, and for your beautiful feedback. And welcome to the new people who come and have discovered this channel. And my name's Laura Aural, and I'm a psychic medium and a medical intuitive. And, welcome here. And I'm here to answer your questions that you put up on my YouTube channel. So I opened it up a couple of weeks ago, and I had about over 40 questions, and I'm just going through. So I want to get through about maybe 15, 16 questions today. Hopefully I get through them all without making such a long video. And let's get started. Okay, this is first question is from Jack. Hi Laura, how will Malaysia do in the next 5 years politically, economically, and how will their currency, the ringgit, do in the next 6 months? My first response, Jack, for the ringgit, their currency, I just got that they're not going to do too well over the next 6 months. In fact, I'm feeling like, I realize I've got music playing in the background. I feel like they're not going to do too well in the background, and I feel there will be a lot of currencies that aren't going to do too well. I feel in terms of the dollar value is going to be dropping around the place, but gold and silver is going to start to pick up towards the end of the year and towards the beginning of next year. And so, yeah, I think currency-wise, and I feel Malaysia, I'm just getting that they may struggle over the next few months towards the end of the year for some reason. Politically, I feel that something's happening with Malaysia. Something's happening militarily with Malaysia. I don't know if they're preparing. Why is it actually recording? I don't know if they're actually preparing for something, but I'm saying that they're doing something around military exercises. They're preparing for something. And I feel like there are a few countries that are actually preparing militarily and trying to knuckle down and anchor down economically as well. So the next 5 years, I feel the next 2 years with Malaysia is going to be a little more volatile, but in the next 5 years, things will turn around after that. I feel like there's going to be volatility. But I'm feeling like there's going to be something, I don't know if there's going to be innovative that will come out of there. I don't know if they have a sector, or they're going to start investing in a sector of more innovation, of maybe technology in connection perhaps with Singapore or something like that. But I don't see that happening. I think over the next 1 to 2 years, it's going to be a little more restless economically for Malaysia. I feel there are sectors that are wealthy sectors, but I just feel like economically, I don't know if Malaysia and Singapore work hand in hand, but I feel like Singapore is going to be more prosperous. It's going to kind of be more stabilized. And Malaysia may be a little bit more volatile. Okay, next question. This is from Saska Frass. I felt that most of what happens on the world stage is faked for the populations even the animosity and wars get ginned up, not just as distractions, but excuses for why we can't have nice things. Having worked on the inside lightly, I know that truth cannot be shared in their eyes. What do you see? Are they really staging for globally, and what time frame? That's actually a really profound question, to be honest. And if you watched the video that I published yesterday, I talked a lot about um, the data centers and what's happening environmentally with the data centers. But to answer directly, and given that you've kind of worked on the inside lightly, I'd say that you'd be quite understanding. So perhaps you're just looking to see if I validate some of what you've been suspecting or seeing for yourself, and a lot of people who feel the same. What's been happening probably from the 60s, or probably from just after World War II, they've been sort of setting up a system, and things have shifted. So we're looking at, many decades of a way things have been run globally. And eventually, in the 60s, there were talk of having some kind of one world government and having control globally of a one world government. And that really has been, I think, things that have sort of been happening and set up have really, some of it's been calculating, and some of it just happens to be opportunistic when things happen, because there are many people on the planet and there are many different variables that can happen. So you can set up and plan something, but it's not always going to work accordingly. So they've had to sort of be more adaptable. The people who have had more grand plans for this authoritarian global control had to sort of be adaptable. And where do I see it? Yeah, I feel some of it is staged, some of it is performative. Some of it is for distraction, diversion, because to sort of keep us distracted with not seeing the narrative. But ultimately, I feel the goal is for having an authoritarian rule globally, and ruling for the next 200 years that way. And that system is breaking down, and the elites who have kind of been part of that push are starting to see the breakdown of that. And so I feel that they're hanging tight onto trying to make that happen, that goal happen. And so what do I really see staging for globally, and for what time frame? I feel like it's going to be a real battle. The next 5 years are going to be a real battle, to be honest. The next 5 years are going to be really, at times, precarious, very crucial time in history. I feel this is a pivotal point in history where, if it goes one way, we're going to be looking at pretty much global communist authoritarian rule for decades, if not a couple of centuries. I feel that's how serious it could actually go. But I feel it won't get to that stage. I really do. I really feel, I have faith in humanity, and I feel there are just too many things that are being shown to us, that too many people stepping forward and making a shift and putting a spanner in the agenda. And now there are more people stepping forward, and they've really been emboldened by one person, by many people, but one person who's really taken the brunt of it. And and a lot of people won't agree with this statement, but I really believe that Donald Trump was put in this position in this time in history for that very purpose. And I've said it before, I really believe that he's the gatekeeper to global democracy. And people are feeling, you know, when you've got a leader who's not needed to put himself in that position, but has done so with everything that he's had to sort of confront the past 10 years. I don't believe it's by accident. And that's why I feel it may be precarious, particularly over the next 5 years, but I feel there will be a major shift, and there's a big shift in humanity and a big awakening globally. And I feel the breakdown is not going to be of democracy, the breakdown is going to be of communism. And I do see that I see Putin, you know, is not going to be around. And I see Xi Jinping is actually not going to be around as well. And I see some things happening in their own countries, but I also see stronger dictators rising in China, probably more focused on what they're wanting to do more than Xi Jinping. Yeah. So my time frame that I'm feeling, I'd be saying over the next 5 years is we're living in a very significant time in history. In the next 5 years, I feel is going to be a very critical point. Up until 2032 is going to be a very critical point as to where history will take us long term. It's going to be one way or another. And a lot of people are going to choose freedom, democracy over communism. And they may sort of be able to brainwash a lot of people who, you know, may be naive or ignorant or just vulnerable and not see what some of this agenda is about. But people are waking up to it because nobody wants to live under an authoritarian control. Okay. Thanks for your question. Next question. It's interesting, the sun's come out quite bright as I was answering that question. The next question's from Kevin. Could I predict when 3D printing of organs using patients' own DNA for transplant and also for cure of HIV and other sexual diseases be fully available and affordable to the public? I've got to say, Kevin, you always ask some very interesting, intriguing, and profound and curly questions. For somebody as myself, being, you know, a psychic medium, there's so much I can intuit. And so I'll see how I go with this question. So let me break it up. Firstly, in relation to the cure for HIV and other sexual diseases, I feel what's going to happen medically, there's going to be a shift in the way things have been run globally. Pharmaceutical industry has really governed our lives and the way we approach medicine, particularly allopathic medicine, you know, your general GP, and how just general medicine works. I feel there's going to be a shift in the way we approach medicine. And if you have a look recently, I believe that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Bobby Kennedy, is actually removing the US from the World Health Organization. That needs to be overhauled. These and the FDA and, you know, the FCC, there's going to be an overhaul of all these things that have basically been the pivotal points to how information and standards go out across pretty much across all countries. And I feel there's going to be a big shift. And because it's been entrenched for decades in a particular way of an approach, it's not going to change overnight. And I see that the next 5 to 10 years are going to be a very pivotal time in terms of the way health is perceived and how health and well-being is approached. And there's more spirituality coming out, and there's more see, doctors, they learn more about pharmaceuticals and they learn very little about nutrition. And you know, not everyone understands spirituality and how, you know, our emotions and our affect us as well. And so they all seem to be separated and segmented into different areas. I feel over the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be merging, and there will begin to be a more holistic approach towards general medicine, an approach to general well-being and medicine on a more official platform. I feel, and how diseases such as HIV and other sexual diseases, it's interesting you've actually looked at those specific diseases, because you know, we're talking about immune deficient diseases, and we're not just looking for a cure based on a vaccine or a cure based on some kind of pharmaceutical drug. And although those things can be very helpful, I feel there's going to be a shift in looking at more natural ways as well. I feel like almost incorporating pharmaceutical in the allopathic, but also to some natural types of approaches as well. And looking at it more holistically rather than just at sections of you know, separating, separating health in different sections, if that makes sense. In terms of 3D printing for organs, I think that's already begun, to be honest, Kevin. I don't know for sure. I thought that that's already begun. I thought that they've already been successful at actually testing that or producing that. I think I read something in passing, unless I imagined it. But I feel it's closer than you actually, than we actually realize. And, you know, so is cloning and things like that as well, which is good and bad, because we want the natural law of biology and evolution to occur for us, and not have to pick and choose the color of our children's eyes and hair and so forth. So we don't want to sort of go into the mad scientist type of field. But for, I don't know if it's for longevity, I feel there's going to be an industry for longevity, living longer, that's going to start exploding. And it's going to be kind of merging a couple of, I don't know if you call them modalities or a couple of industries. Yeah. And will they be affordable to the public? Not initially, no. It's going to be a little exclusive to people who could, because I feel it will be an expensive process. But then you'd be looking, I'm giving the next 25 years would be, it may take 25 years for some of these things to really be part of mainstream and more affordable. It's a big gap. Between 10 to 25 years is a big gap. But I feel there's going to be some major advancements in medicine within the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years. No, it's going to be longer, 8 to 10 years. Like some quantum leaps in medicine where they're going to be more accepted in mainstream, because you're talking, it's almost like indoctrination. You're talking about things that have been entrenched so long in a particular methodology that that's going to take some time to sort of start to shift in the consciousness of, global acceptance. Okay, next question from Rex UZ. Who will lead Russia after Putin? Some are even expecting a new messiah at the end of the day. When is an escalation or even a Western military intervention expected there, given that a certain part of the country will allegedly be destroyed? So it seems like you've got a prediction from somebody else that you're wanting me to validate, because I don't believe that Russia's going to be destroyed. So I'm not going to validate that prediction for you. And I did predict that Putin's not going to be around. I did predict that he's going to be ousted and there's somebody else that's going to come in. And the person who's going to come in, I do see a male, and I feel he's going to be tall, he's going to be youthful and vibrant, but not overly zealous. But I feel like he's going to be mature and he's going to look youthful for his age. So he's not going to be young in age, but he's going to be young in appearance, because he's going to be somebody who looks and maintains his appearance. And I see him to be a tall gentleman, and I see him to be more open and friendly to changing how Russia is perceived in the world. I feel that that's what's going to start to shift. I don't see Russia collapsing. I see Russia expanding, but not necessarily as a Soviet type of expansion. I feel it's going to be more, it's going to shift the way Russia's always been perceived and how it's functioned within its own country. And I see that that's happening. I'm getting within the next 5 years, possibly less than that possibly. And I feel there's going to be an assassination attempt towards Putin. I don't know if he'll be injured from it, but I see something like that happening, coming up. And I see that he's super paranoid, but I feel like he's going to have some health problems. I don't know if he's going to have a stroke or something, but I just sort of see that he's going to be incapacitated somehow. Okay. Next question. This is from Sandra CZ. Hi, Laura. My question is about the state of Ghana in Western Africa. There seems to be a form of a silent coup taking place through the current presidency. Is this party in charge trying to remove democracy secretly? I straight away got yes. Will he successfully remove the kings of the land tribes? I just got yes again. Okay. And take over as one party. I'm seeing some bloodshed around this, Sandra. I'm seeing some bloodshed, and I'm seeing some fighting here. And lastly, the education minister just announced teaching Arab in the schools. Is there plans to promote a caliphate state as well as steal more gold? Okay, so I think what's happening with some of the African nations, economically, I think they're not going to allow for gold to be taken from them like they were before. So if they're actually announcing that they'll be teaching Arab in schools, is because they're infiltrating and they're wanting to actually start to implode and take over that way. But I feel they're needing to sort of, I'm feeling like they're looking at ousting the history a little bit of the way things function, but not for the purpose of a takeover of some form of caliphate. I feel it's going to be, I'm just getting the word economically prosperous. Now, I don't know if Ghana has been having some conversations with the Trump administration, or they will be due to have some conversations, because I feel the Trump administration is wanting to, if you look at the way the Commonwealth expanded their influence and their strength throughout the globe, I feel that Trump and his administration is wanting that for the US, and they're wanting to actually do that through economic negotiations. And that would be to sort of go into negotiations to either do mining and things like that, but it won't be to sort of strip them of their wealth and have them not benefit from it. It will actually be, I think they've kind of starting to not allow, and I don't know if this is Ghana per se, but I feel there are some African nations that are sort of stopping the wealth from leaving their country, and they're going to have to do what America's doing. Is if you're wanting this, you're going to have to come and set up production and industry in the country to drive industry and wealth and keep it in the country. And I feel that that's what some of the countries are doing. And I actually feel I do see some conflict happening in Ghana. I don't really know much about the African nations because I don't really follow it. But I'm starting to get a few questions here and there. So I'm starting to take an interest outside just my intuition of what I'm receiving. And I feel they have a vested interest in negotiating with Washington. And so whatever's happening, I feel there's an imbalance in Parliament. There's going to be some kind of purging there. And if there's going to be some purging of the old tribes or the kings or whatever, I think it's to sort of, I feel that they're the ones who can be influenced and corrupted as well, unfortunately. This is just from my feeling. I could be totally wrong because I don't know much about it. So I'm just sort of saying it from feeling and just how I'm seeing this. I don't feel there's not going to be a very big Islamic takeover in Ghana. And if that's what they're attempting to do, I actually feel the West is going to intervene almost and not allow that, because it's going to, they can't afford for Africa to become the new Middle East, as they're trying to kind of bring peace to the Middle East and clean up and bring more prosperity all across the Middle East. They're not about to allow this to fester and go into parts of Africa and just become the new type of Middle East. And I feel that that's not going to expand if that's what's starting to happen. It will sort of be contained. Interesting question. Thanks, Sandra. Next question is from Harsh Pandey. Hi, Laura. With the current civil unrest from students going on in India, as I'd predicted. Okay, I don't remember predicting that, but thank you for reminding me. Because what I get, it's not mine to keep. So I feel it, I see it, and I let it go. So that's why sometimes when I'm asked about it, if it doesn't come back to me immediately, I don't remember everything that I've predicted. So if it's something to be said, it will come back to me. So let's see how I go with this question. So I'd predicted something about students, unrest with students in India. Okay. How do I feel it will go worse? Yes. Do I think Modi government will be toppled, or will the PM bring in strong reforms leading to more growth in India over the coming years? Modi won't be toppled. But I do see it's what's coming back to me. So if it's coming back to me, this is what needs to be said or reiterated, or just expanded. So I'm seeing some kind of funeral happening. I don't know if it's going to be happening with Modi. I don't know if there's going to be an assassination attempt with him or some official in his government. I'm seeing a procession of some sort. I feel like Modi will bring back some strong reforms, but I feel India is going to start to become the new superpower. It's going to surpass China. And they're going to be in a stronger position to start negotiating on a more stronger way with the US. I feel like India is going to be an upcoming superpower economically, even possibly militarily. But not in terms of how China comes from the communist perspective. This is more of a democratic, and I sort of see some deep negotiations they're going to be having in these areas. I feel because you've got India, then you've got Pakistan, and you've got China around India. So they're going to be looking at some kind of expansion. I don't know if something expanding in nuclear, expanding militarily, expanding in space force, expanding in some kind of economically, but some kind of innovation. I see that that's going to happen. And I'm seeing something about Germany and India that may start to eventuate. It may be in terms of production and technology that there may start to be some kind of negotiations. But I see India is going to be a rising star of some sort. It's going to be a powerful country on many levels, and economically, it's going to grow into something very strong. But I do see that I see a procession, a funeral procession, and I feel it's around the ministers. I feel there's going to be an assassination attempt, whether it's successful, I don't know. It's around Modi. Um, I don't know whether it's with him right now, because what I'm feeling, I'm just sort of being shown, but I can't quite pinpoint exactly who it's belonging to. I might kind of go into that a bit deeper behind the scenes. Okay, thanks for your question, Harsh Pandey. Next question is from Dario or Darius. Okay. And it looks like Rex has translated it. When stops in war in Ukraine? So possibly when is the war stopping in Ukraine? I'm seeing 2027, and I'm looking towards mid to late, more towards the late 2027, mid to late, more late 2027. There's going to start to be some rebuilding of cities happening. Rebuilding of cities happening. 2029 is going to be significant. I see a big shift happening in Ukraine in terms of rebuilding. So between late 2027, mid to late 2027, all the way to 29, I'm seeing a rebuilding, but I do see some kind of, during that rebuilding, there may be an outbreak of some sort. I'm getting more of disease outbreak or something. Something's going to put a spanner in what they're doing in the rebuilding. I don't know if it's going to be an illness that takes over. I feel like there may be an assassination during that time. And it is around Zelensky. I feel like I've predicted this before. I feel like it's a rebuilding. And also too, I feel like the Zelensky government is going to be held accountable for some kind of human rights violations and possibly war crimes of some sort against their own people. I see one of the ministers having a heart attack. Yeah. I feel like there's going to be some kind of implosion within the government happening there. So while there's a rebuilding of the cities, there's going to be some kind of implosion happening as well. Some illness that will hit as well. So 2027 to 2029 is significant for Ukraine on many levels. And that's for Darius, the question for Darius. Okay, next question is with Edding for you. Hi, Laura. Do you think coming earthquake shocks, etc., will put an end to data centers? No. It's frightening how much water and energy they need to run, and it really can't be good for the environment. Yeah, if you watch the part one of the Q&As that I published last night, Edding, for you, if you watch that and listen to that, I went a little bit extended in some of my responses in relation to data centers and how much water they are needing to consume and how much land they're needing as they kind of grow in their need for storage. And it definitely isn't good for the environment. And I talk about that of needing some kind of, there's going to be some kind of advanced technology, but that's quantum advanced technology that they're going to have to, if they're not already working on it, that will come. Yeah, a quantum form of AI or something, that's going to have to work at that, because that is a major issue globally. So just watch that video, part 1 of the Q&A that I published last night. But there won't be an earthquake that will shake and put an end to it. They're going to be expanded. What they're needing to do is look at more sustainable resources and how they manage the growth, because I feel like the growth is going to explode in what they're going to need to do with AI and what they're planning and what they're wanting to do, like what they've envisaged to do with AI. And it's very unsustainable, their current way of utilizing the amount of electricity and energy that's required to sustain this growth. AI hasn't even reached its capacity, like capabilities yet, and they don't have advanced technology to be able to cope with the degree that it's going to need to be advanced. And they're going to, I feel like they're simultaneously working on expanding some technologies that's kind of almost going to be out of this world, literally, possibly. Not just metaphorically, but perhaps literally, in terms of, yeah, being able to manage. Okay. Next question from Prairie Mornings. Any time frame on when currencies will reset to being equal around the world for all countries? It's an interesting question, Prairie Mornings, because I don't believe there's going to be one currency that's going to be that can actually be equal globally. In order for that to be equal all around the world, it's almost going to have to be one authoritarian currency that will actually be across the globe. I don't see that happening. In fact, I see people wanting to go back to some older standard, breaking away from some of the I just sort of keep on getting that the euro, I don't know, something's going to happen with the euro dollar, and I see some collapse happening there. The financial collapse, there may be a reset in terms of some euro. There's going to have to be some reset with some countries that have really mismanaged their economics and financial affairs. But there's not going to be a global reset, and I don't believe there'll be a global equal value across the globe as well. But I would be keeping an eye out for precious metals, gold and silver, platinum and those kind of things, because I see that will be rising. I see that will be rising, and I do see now. I don't know whether this is going to be an Australian currency or an American currency, because I actually see gold hitting $10,000 per ounce, and silver. I see silver has the capacity to hit 200-300, even 400 within the next 2-3 years. Less than that. I see silver is definitely more volatile, but I feel it's going to be kind of going up and down up until 2028, possibly 2029, and it's going to stabilize. But I feel like there's going to be some peaks during those periods. So I feel like the currencies are kind of like wavering a little bit. Gold value is going to start creeping up and increasing again, like the metals, silver and so forth, because they dropped, and I see them rising again, and I see them dipping again twice next year, one more than another time. And I see 2028, I see something interesting happening. I kind of see like a soaring in 2028 with precious metals, but I feel like it's going to kind of go up and go down. It's going to be a bit more volatile around 2028. I feel like it may go up leading to the elections, the federal elections in the US. I feel like I just see some rising spike, and then a dip, a hard dip as well. And I feel like it's going to be a little bit more stable towards 2029 for a longer period. So I feel from now until 2028, there's going to be more volatility with these metals. Yeah. Next question from Eating Pakistan. Hello, Laura. I was super impressed by your Pakistan reading. Okay, I don't remember what I said, to be honest. I'm sure you have shared some deep knowledge. Okay. I want to know, do you see Pakistan economy will um, grow, continue to grow? Will going to grow, or will it remain like it is forever as slowly going down? Okay. What's the overall future of the Karachi city of Pakistan? Will it be going down in real estate, border crisis, and security issues? I had millions of questions for you after the last reading. Are there any more questions in relation to Pakistan? Okay. So with Pakistan, I'm getting that there is a bit of a water crisis there in Pakistan. And I'm feeling like what's happening is technology is kind of growing in Pakistan. So I don't know whether you're expanding in your data centers. I feel not, though. I don't know whether Pakistan's a little bit more arid land. Um, I feel like that I keep on getting something about a water crisis. I feel like the water crisis will continue to get a bit worse, to be honest. And security issues, I do see, I remember now as I'm speaking now that there's some conflict happening on the border. And I'm getting something about suicide bombing. So I don't know if I've said this before because this is what I'm seeing. Um, I'm seeing some conflict spilling into the cities, um, which will affect things uh, economically during this period. But I'm getting that it may be more short-lived. I don't feel it's longer term, and I feel the next 5 years is going to change for Pakistan. I feel like there's going to start to have some wealth growing in that region. And what I'm feeling and what I'm starting to be shown here is something about the leadership of Pakistan going into some kind of agreements. Firstly, they've got disagreements. So I'm seeing two things happening. They're having a rising disagreement with another nation and leading into conflict. But then they have negotiations and agreements with the Western country, and it could be the US in terms of, but I feel like the US is going to be challenging them with how they actually manage things there, because I feel like it's a hotspot, terror hotspot, and I feel like they're going to be challenged in the way they do things there. So I feel like economically things are going to be sort of stripped or controlled from them to sort of take control a little bit of allowing perhaps terror cells to settle there or something. I think that they're needing to sort of be ousted and purged. And I feel the next 2 to 3 years are going to be a little precarious in relation to that there. Um, so I see a water crisis rising. I do see struggling economically, and I do see tensions rising, but I also see it's a purging that will be happening that will appear to look like there's more chaos, but on the other end of that, I see the next 3 to 5 years are going to be some kind of shift. It's actually going to be more than 3 years. I think 5 years is going to be some kind of turnaround. It's going to be after 2030. Okay. Next question from Curiosity Nudge. What future do I see for major currencies like the US dollar, the UAE, sorry, Euro? I'd say that's Singapore, SG Singapore, I think. Okay, I just mentioned before in the price of gold and silver in the coming months. I've already talked about that. Singapore, the Singapore and the Singapore dollar is going to be a good place to invest, is going to be a stable anchoring place in that region. I see the UAE is the UAE and Euro is going to be more volatile. And UAE is being shaken up because the attacks that are coming from Iran seem to be directed more towards the UAE to cause destabilization and more uncertainty in the region. So UAE won't really be a place for good investment over the next few years. But the Singapore dollar is going to be quite strong. The US dollar is going to waver a little bit. The US dollar is going to get quite strong. So I do see things kind of equaling to the US dollar because I do see the US dollar dropping somewhat actually. But I also see it maintaining strength. It would be maintaining strength above, but I also see gold prices rising. So it's usually if the dollar is strong, the gold is low, and the reverse would happen. So if the dollar is low, the gold will be higher. Well, I'm seeing and feeling that it's going to be quite volatile over the next 2 to 3 years and fluctuating a little bit more, but there won't be any full-on depression or crashes or any resets of any sort. And so I feel that the US dollar is going to be more stabilized. The Federal Reserve is going to be more stabilized in the US. And the US is going to be able to stabilize global markets a little bit better. But they're trying to sort of destabilize it with the conflict in Iran. And they're trying to destabilize it with and deplete the resources with the conflicts in Ukraine. And so they're going to be start to be contained and shifts happening there. So I see for more longer term investments, gold and silver, although silver is going to be a little bit more volatile. Gold will be a little volatile too at some points, but I feel you'd be looking at more longer term with gold. US dollar and the Singapore dollar. Singapore dollar is going to be quite strong, is what I'm feeling. Euro, UAE. Yeah, I see that that's actually, if there's any form of reset happening there, I see more with the euro. So I see something economically not doing well with the euro and volatility happening in the UAE. Okay, next question, linking Atlas. Will the property market and the economy of the UAE, especially Dubai and other Emirates within the UAE, rise again in 2028? I think I've already answered that question for you there. And so thank you, linking Atlas. Just listen to the last two responses. Okay, Hush Pandy's asking another question. Trump wants to get into one-sided trade deal with India that benefits the US only. To do that, he has pressured India with tariffs. Do you see India succeeding out of this, or do you think India will have no option but to bend? Will India become a subordinate of the US, or do you see India becoming independent and strong and also maintain good relations with Russia long term? Okay, so if you listen back to a couple of questions before yours, I mentioned about Russia, I mentioned about India being a rising superpower. I do feel India is going to be compromising a little bit more than they want to in terms of negotiations with the Trump admin and the trade deals. Yes, I do feel that that's going to happen, but I don't see them being subordinate. I see them being going into more equal types of negotiations for something long term. They're going to have to show some kind of loyalty Sorry, there's something bothering me there, my cord. They're going to have to show some kind of loyalty and go into some kind of negotiations. And with the Washington at the moment, but I see them being more rising superpower, and there's some kind of negotiations moving forward with some kind of growing technology. I feel India is going to be super important in relation to Space Force, something to do with Space Force and something to do with doing things on their land, perhaps militarily stationed if they're not already there. There's just something of an expansion there with the US and India. Okay, next question. C Gab? C Gabby, okay. Blessings, Laura. Blessings, Gabby. My question is about gas. How long more will gas prices stay high? Or gas is petrol, I imagine you're meaning. And I've noticed that the gas I put in my car seems to burn up much faster, not last as long as it did in the past. I'm wondering if it's been diluted. I feel there would be some places who actually do dilute it. Diluting it with ethanol, but usually they would actually, here in Australia, you pretty much know which one is a little bit more with ethanol, but possibly if they're not diluting it properly, they're going to cause problems with the engine. I buy the same gas premium from the same gas station and notice the difference in mileage. That's interesting. It's very, very aware of you too, to actually notice that. Are the chemicals they spray in the air affecting the combustion of gas in our vehicles? That's a very interesting question. So, will gas prices stay high? For a period of time, they will be. They're going to start to come down. I feel middle of next year, there's going to be some kind of shift and they're going to start to come down more affordable. I feel what you're saying in terms of the diluting of the, the petrol that they're using in the cars. I feel a lot of petrol stations do that. Are the chemicals they spray in the air affecting the combustion of gas in the vehicles? That's really interesting. And my first response is yes. And I feel because the cars are made up of these electronics, and I'm seeing that the electronics what it's doing is it's actually affecting the electronics. And even though you may have a gas powered car, not an EV, I feel because of the electronics in the car, I feel like it's messing up with the electronics. So the cloud seeding potentially and those kind of things that they're doing in the air and these chemtrails, I feel it's mucking around a little bit with some electronics, and there will be some issues with the electronics. And so if they're diluting the petrol and the electronics are playing up with the car, then the question would be, is it being done deliberately so they can start to phase out gas guzzling vehicles to start to bring in a wave of EV vehicles? It could possibly be the case, because that's where I'm feeling like I'm taking this question. I don't know if that's the intention of your question, but that's where I'm feeling I'm taking that question. So I feel there may be some valid questions, valid concerns, possibly. Not even raised to my consciousness before, but just in answering the question, that's what's coming to me. So I might be mindful of that now around the place. I might explore that a little bit more. Thanks for your question, C. Gabby. This is from Healing Moon 2. What do you see for the fiat currencies, Australia, US, India, Indian rupee? So I'm kind of getting a couple of, like, two or three things being said to me all at once. I'm just trying to process it. So I'm just going to share with you what was coming through and then see if I can kind of make sense of it. I got that um, the currencies are going to run flat, sort of continuously flat. Then I got that the currencies are going to go up. But then I got that the Indian rupee is really going to almost explode and almost rise quite high, almost like a one-on-one, if not above, at some point to the American dollar. I feel like the Indian rupee is going to give the American dollar a bit of a run for its money. And a time frame that I'm seeing that, I'm feeling like the Australian dollar may be faring okay at the moment. It seems to be economically faring okay, but I see it, I don't know what it's on at the moment, but I see it dropping down to 60%, 60 cents to one US dollar. So that's going to be more on the low side, almost double. Um, but I'm seeing I'm wondering if 2029 is significant because 1929 was the last depression and crash. Now, I don't see, usually things might run in a 100-year cycle. I don't see a 100-year cycle in terms of an economic crash. I see it in terms of some major weather events coming up. But in terms of economy, I feel like it's almost going to be the opposite. I feel towards the end of this decade, the value of the dollar is going to be increasing. But what I also got before was, because it's coming back to me, is Australia is trying to phase out currency somehow. I feel like the banks are going to try to phase out currency. And you're already starting to see it because this is now coming to more consciousness. So you're already starting to see it with the closure of ATMs, the closure of branches, the merging of this. They've got to keep currency moving. But I feel like they're trying to push and phase out currency because I feel like they're going to be trying to push for digital ID. And I feel like they're trying to prep it in case they win in 2028 because I feel by the turn of this decade, they want by 2030, Australia wants to actually be almost fully digital, is what I'm feeling. Um, and I feel like there are a lot of backdoor discussions to do with this. So the question is, will they be successful? To a point they will be. To a point they will be, but the cash, the fiat currency is not going to be disappearing completely. And I've said this before, and I don't know how it's going to work. And I do see some kind of hybrid coming in. And one of our members during our roundtable discussion said something critical. Actually, it would have to be concurrently because you can't just phase out one and start another. It will cause a crash. So they're going to start to introduce something. And when you start to see the introduction of something, it's the start of the phasing out of the other. And I'm not quite sure how this hybrid's going to work. But I do see, I see gold making a comeback. I, you know what? I can't answer that any further right now. There's something I'm really going to explore because I'm getting a few people asking me, and it hasn't really been on my radar so much to delve deeper. But I'm starting to feel like now I've got to now start to do some maybe slides and deeper, some channeling on these topics. So stay tuned. I might just start to do some more um, economics, finance. I've always been a bit reluctant because I am only a psychic medium. I don't have a finance background, even though I worked in the bank for 11 years. I don't really have a finance background, and I'm certainly not in a position to be advising. So you have to really be discerning when I'm giving you this information. and you need to do your due diligence. But in saying that, I've been feeling a need to actually do some more deeper dives into crypto, precious metals, currencies, just finance and the economy now. I feel I might start to do that and see how that goes. So the future of food and farming. If you, Healing Moon, if you watched the Q&A part 1 from yesterday, you'll see that the future of food and farming is going to be affected by all these data centers that are coming in and all of this requirement of crazy amount of water that's required with it's just not sustainable. The amount of land that they're needing for the expanding, the amount of data and AI and what AI is going to be capable of doing, the current way of it, the way it's managed is not going to be sustained. And farming will make a comeback if they haven't depleted all the nutrients from the bloody soil by then, which they won't. So I won't be cynical because I feel it's wrong for me to be cynical. That's my own little feelings creeping in. I feel farming is going to make a comeback here in Australia, and in other parts where they've really begun to suffer. I feel farming is going to be taking off in India. They've had a lot of problems with Monsanto and GMO seeds, and because creating these GMO seeds that are kind of just valuable for one crop cycle and not being able to use seeds that can kind of pollinate and be continually just be a cycle of seeds, and to be able to patent them and control food production. I feel the evil elites that had these thoughts and agendas of taking over and having us be pretty much I don't even know if I want to say it that way. I think you all know what I'm trying to say. I feel it's important that I remain and remain positive in my predictions as well. So even though I see these things, I always see humanity rising above it all. And I see a purging, and there's a tarot card called the Tower. And the tarot card, when you see it, it's a tower. It's at night. There's lightning, there's storms, there's clouds, there's things being thrown out the window. And it, to me, and I think in terms of what the card represents, is transformation. And part of transformation is purging. And I feel the purging, it looks like there's a lot of chaos, a lot of mess, a lot of uneasiness. We're living in the time of that tarot card, the Tower. But we're living in a time of transformation and the shedding, the purging, clearing out old skeletons from the cupboard, things coming to the surface, things that were hidden, there's going to be more transparency, more things being held accountable, and more innovative ways. And the only way humanity can improve is almost let it take its course, and they have to destroy it to a point where people can say no longer. And it will affect a lot of people and humanity to a point, but there's many more of us that will make a stand in helping to collectively make that shift. Even in the way we think and speak about it, I feel that knowledge is power, and we should never fear what we know. We should always fear what we don't know and what we don't understand, because what we don't know the intentions. We can sense them, but if we don't really know something underhanded, you don't really know what's happening behind the scenes. But the moment something comes to light, light is the greatest disinfectant. And that's what we need to do, is shine a light on all the mold and fungus and virus that's taking hold around the globe. And in saying that, that's the last of the questions. It's probably a good question to end with. Love to you all. Thank you so much for listening. Let's collectively always come from a humble heart, have gratitude, and really be grateful for living in a time that's really going to be, we're living in a time in history that when we're going to look back, it's going to be a critical time in history that it's a privilege to be here. And somebody had mentioned in one of the questions about doing a meditation, a collective meditation. I'm going to think seriously about it. And yeah, I will think seriously about creating something where we can kind of all join in, because I feel the power of the collective with a humble heart, a heart full of love, and a heart full of humanity and faith. No matter what faith you are, we're all God's children or children of the divine in some way. And no matter what faith, no matter what denomination, I love you all. Good night and good day, and speak soon. Okay. Thank you for watching. Bedrud, arrivederci, and joy again until part 3. Bye for now.